Let's talk about how we can divide some decimals and fractions. Well, our rules for the signs on this is the same as our rules for when we're dividing integers. If we have two positives or two negatives, then our answer will be positive. And if we have one positive and one negative, our answer will be negative. Okay, so let's jump right in. Remember, when dividing decimals, we can use long division. We just need to make sure that our number outside our division does not have a decimal. So we might need to move that decimal once to the right, twice to the right, something like that. And then once that's a whole number, then we can also move the decimal of our number that was inside our division, long division bar, the same number of times. And then when we get to fractions, remember, to divide by a fraction, we want to multiply by its reciprocal. And remember, reciprocal just means we're going to take the numerator and the denominator, and we're going to flip them, okay? All right, so let's look at number one. We have negative 2.4 divided by 3.2. So I know my answer should be negative, so let's just do our long division as if these numbers were positive and make sure our answer is negative at the end, okay? So we're going to do 2.4 divided by 3.2. So when I'm doing my long division, it would look something like this. And now we know that our 3.2, that needs to be a whole number. So let's move the decimal once to the right. We need to also move the decimal once to the right in 2.4. So now we've got 32 and we've got 24, okay? Now, 32 won't go into 24 because it's bigger, right? So we need to add a decimal and a 0. So let's bring that decimal up to the top. And now let's see how many times 32 will go into 240. So if you have a calculator, you can just kind of guess and check. One thing you could do is do 240 divided by 32 and just see what you get. So when we do that, 240 divided by 32, we're going to get a little bit more than 7. Okay, so we get 7.5. So I know that my 32 should go in there 7 times. So if I want to do 32 times 7, that gives me 224. So 224, now we're going to subtract, and we get a difference of 16. Well, 32 won't go into 16, so let's bring down our 0. And now we can see how many times will 32 go into 160. Well, we could do 160 divided by 32, and we get 5. So it perfectly goes in there 5 times. And 5 times 32 would be 160. And notice that we do not have any remainder down there whatsoever. So we know that our answer is a terminating decimal, negative 0.75. Okay? All right, number 2. Negative 6 divided by negative 1.1. So negative divided by negative, so we know our answer should be positive. So let's do 1.1 on our outside and then 6 here on the inside. We need to move the decimal on 1.1, so let's move it also on 6. So now we have 11 and we have 60. Okay, well, how many times will 11 go into 60? That would be 5 times, and that would be 55. And let's bring down our 0. So now 11 will go into 50 4 times. That would be 44. Bring down another 0. Now 11 will go into 60 5 times, and hopefully you're starting to see our pattern. Bring down our 0. 11 will go into 54 times. That would be 44, right? And now I bring down my 0 and I would just keep going. Okay, so we have a repeating decimal for number 2. So this one is going to be 5.45 repeating. And we said our answer should be positive because it was a negative divided by a negative. All right, number 3, negative 7/6 divided by negative 1/4. So negative divided by a negative, so we know our answer should be positive. So let's do 7/6 times 4/1. Notice how I did the reciprocal of 1/4 and I changed it to multiplication. Sometimes people call that KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, but keep, flip, change. So what that stands for is we're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're going to flip the second fraction or take the reciprocal, and then we're going to change division to multiplication. So now we can multiply straight across and we get 28/6. And when we look at those numbers, 28 and 6 are both even, so they could divide by 2. So we're going to end up with 14/3. And we said our answer should be positive because we did a negative divided by negative. All right, number 4, I notice I have a mixed number here, so let's rewrite this as an improper fraction. That would be 3 times 5, 15, plus 2, 17. So 17/3 would be the same as 5 2/3. So now we have negative 2/3. Well, let's just write this as 2/3. because I know I have a negative times a positive, so my answer will be negative. Let's just keep that in mind. And now let's multiply by 3 over 17. So 2 times 3 would be 6, and 3 times 17 is 51. Now to reduce this one, both 6 and 51 are divisible by 3, so we're going to end up with 2 over 17. Okay? And so a faster way to get to that, and remember our answer should be negative, so negative 2 over 17. And when we did our multiplication down here, 2/3 times 3 over 17, notice we had a 3 here and a 3 there. So that would be called like cross simplifying. So we can do that as well. And that's how we ended up with 2 over 17. Okay, that's how we can divide decimals and fractions.